On to tonight's Crime Blotter. Our guest is an expert on a case that has fascinated and repulsed many in this country. Wichita's BTK killer will be sentenced this week and could spend the rest of his life in prison for 10 murders committed between 1974 and 1991. Howard Brodsky is a psychologist who helped to profile BTK back in the 1970s. Welcome, Howard.
Good evening.
Well, take us into the mind of a serial killer. What leads somebody to kill repeatedly?
You know, this is a guy who has been doing this his entire adult life. This is something that's gone on 3 decades in his life. And we're finding out that he really nurtured this, that he had some impulses that go back to childhood. And it appears as though he just kept focusing on them, thinking about them, fantasizing, and on it went until he started doing these awful, awful crimes. Through this nurturing, he built a fantasy world, and he acted it out in the most atrocious ways. And tomorrow we're going to hear the details of how he acted it out.
Howard, are serial killers born with something in their brain that then gets activated at some point in their childhood, some sort of trauma?
You know, I know some people believe that. I don't think this case requires that belief, though. I think we do find that he realized within himself at a young age that he did have some deviant thoughts. And instead of doing reasonable things to take care of those deviant thoughts, he did the unreasonable. He fantasized on them. He dwelled on them. He really nurtured them until he was totally focused on them and was willing to risk everything in his life and everybody important in his life in order to act them out. So I don't know that this is something that he was born with.
Is the BTK killer, Howard, a sociopath or a psychopath? And what's the difference?
Well, really, at this point, the terms are really interchangeable, and fashions have changed over the years, and the terms have shifted in their usage. So we can use either one to describe this guy, and that's what this guy does appear to be. That there's things that go back before age 15, acts of some cruelty to animals. His lack of remorse, his lack of any kind of sense of conscience, his lack of concern about how his behavior affects others. These are classical things which describe a sociopathic personality disorder.
You know what's so amazing about this story and so many other serial killers, Howard, is that this guy led a relatively normal life. He was very involved in his community, in his church life. How do these killers go about leading a double life?
Well, you know, this guy had a knack for being able to go undetected. I think, you know, it may well be that he filled up his life with some people who were kind of naive. This community was on a search for this guy for quite a while, and as far as I know, nobody turned him in. Nobody suggested, hey, why don't you take a look at this guy up in Park City? It seems as though he's got some eccentric behaviors. So he did very, very well at hiding what was going on inside of him. He never shared it with anyone, and may well have filled his life with people who didn't want to look too close, who really didn't want to see what was beneath the surface.
Howard, you have said that you believe that he is going to be humiliated when he faces his sentencing tomorrow. But if you believe that serial killers lack a sense of conscience, shame or guilt or remorse about what they did, how can they feel that humiliation?
Well, I think that is the explanatory thing which kept him from revealing anything all this time. That he wants to be the guy on top, he wants to be the know-it-all, he wants to be the master of his craft. And tomorrow, when we hear the dirty dealings that have been going on, when we look at the evidence, when we look at really just despicable thing after despicable thing, he will be humiliated. And I think you're going to be able to visibly see in his demeanor during the course of the day that he goes from a full-size guy into looking like somebody very, very small, very, very petty.
Howard, one last question for you. This entire episode is now over. He's in jail. He's going to be sentenced. He's never going to see the light of day again. Does the killing impulse stay in these serial killers?
Well, the way this guy thinks, and, you know, without any therapeutic intervention, he may well stay with that mindset. But I don't think this is the kind of thing that a person, if they experience some kind of impulses that are deviant, they shouldn't automatically jump to the conclusion that they can't be cured. They should show effort at making some changes. That's what's notable about this guy. There is no record of trying to change his behavior. He just kept doing it. He kept killing people.
Well, Dr. Howard Brodsky, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.